What's up, guys? Mad Scientist 7890 back with another edition of In the Lab. Now, with this one, it's interesting because I feel like it's a perfect time for me to do this video because I feel like I won't be biased about any of this because I've kind of reached I guess you could say, a level playing around with both these sides here. And that's going to be Smarks versus Marks. And for those of you who actually don't know what either of those things are, you're definitely not a Smark. And I'll say that for sure, but I'll explain. A smart Smark, is basically, a smarter, I guess you could say, more educated, more, knowing wrestling fan, someone who kind of knows the ins and outs of things, knows wrestling ability, knows the background, knows this, knows that, feels insulted when they watch, a product, a mainstream product, and, they cut a cheesy PG promo or something like that, and you're just like, oh, we're not idiots. We know what's going. That's basically a Smark, and I'll get more into that as well. A Mark is somebody who's pretty much on the opposite side of that. Someone who is, a fan of a John Cena, as a total, a fan of a Kelly, a fan of the poster child of a mainstream wrestling, type. WWE as a whole. You take them as a whole, and you're basically a fan of just them in general. You don't care about the background. You don't, who cares? John Cena's ability. Who cares about this? Who cares about that? You're just a fan of wrestling, just what goes on, in just mainstream wrestling. And I don't want to say dumb because it sounds pretty ignorant, but I'll get to that as well. Now, what I'm doing here on the versus side of this is basically, picking apart both sides, because I think that both sides of these things are very interesting, because to me, a Smark is a person that will sit there and tell a Mark, or tell a person who doesn't know near as much as them, that they're stupid or dumb because they don't know enough, and they'll sit there and they'll say, I could take over WB and book them better. I could, John Cena's horrible. He has 5 moves of doom. CM Punk's the best thing to ever happen to wrestling. Blah 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 and all this. It's very annoying. It is, and I'm not really on either side. I'm kind of in the middle of this because I feel like you got to look at both aspects of wrestling. You got to look at the sides that make the money and the sides that want to use it as a professional, as a sport, and know what's really going on. Now, I can sit here and say all day that I could book TNA. I could just walk right in there and book TNA better now than anybody that they have, and that's just saying that. That's just me saying that out of frustration. But do I truly think I could book TNA? Hell no. I don't know shit about booking. I've never booked a wrestling company ever. I've never wrestled. I've never worked for a wrestling company. I don't know anything about anything with wrestling. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend and say I'm some kind of smart and say I can book a company better than somebody else, because I can't. And I'm not going to sit here and say that John Cena's a horrible wrestler and John Cena's this and John Cena's that. Because, you look at the man has worked his ass off for this company. He's, gotten better, and, WWE's smart in the aspect of the more they make this guy Super Cena, the more they push this guy, the more he's going to get hated. And that's what they want. The more they don't use Zack Ryder, the more fans are going to get pissed off. And they're going to continue to watch, and they're going to continue to be pissed off. And then finally, when it happens, they're going to be like, this is what I've been waiting for. It's a very smart concept. WWE is very smart in that aspect. WWE is very smart in the aspect of using Undertaker. Not to the point of using him, once a year at WrestleMania. Perfect. If you have nothing else going on for WrestleMania, you have The Undertaker and his streak. Now, how much longer will this last? Who knows? But you can't sit there and say that they're dumb, because they're not. They're very smart. But to say that I could book a company and say that John Cena is horrible and all this stuff, I'm not going to be a Mark like that. When it comes to indie wrestling, people who act like they say they watch independent wrestling, it's so much better than mainstream, it's so much better than this, so much better than that. I don't believe that either. Ring of Honor is one of my favorite wrestling companies, and it's not just because of the wrestling ability. I think it's because it's an edgy feel. I think it's more realistic, and at my age, I'm 21 years old. I'm not a little kid anymore. I'm not gonna want to sit and watch John Cena face Great Khali and have this whole story of John Cena beating the bigger man and oh, it's gonna be epic, and I just It's just not believable to me, to me anymore. I look more to the athletic aspect of it, and I think that's why WWE's losing a lot of fans these in this era, because a lot of people are tuning into UFC because it's more of a real product. And I think they do need to lean towards that, and that makes a lot of sense. But when it comes to a Mark, to me, a Mark is basically just somebody who is all about John Cena, all about this. Who's this no-namer Dan Bryan guy? He doesn't look good. He's small. John Cena's where it's at. I understand that. And it's very hard to sit here and say, from either side, that one guy would be better than the other. Because professional wrestling is such an interesting sport that you have so many different aspects and sides and angles and just things you can look at, from each angle. Take, for example, Vince McMahon was smart in his whole process of okay, he's always going to be, the guy who's always going to have the guy who can talk and who has the right look as, his main event guys. Whether or not they can work or not, that they're just going to be, that's just the way it's going to be. But he's smart in the aspect of, giving the smart fan what they want. And a perfect example of that is Benoit and Eddie Guerrero's title reigns, many years ago, WrestleMania, and having them hugging that was just a very big moment for a smart fan. Going all the way back to, Eddie Guerrero as Black Tiger, and Super J Cup, and then, Chris Benoit's Wild Pegasus. Just going back to, all the way back to that, and just all the way up through ECW, and all the way up through Eddie Guerrero and WCW, and Chris Benoit and WCW, and Four Horsemen, and getting their due, and, this and that, and, somebody who can put on the athletic contest. And I've said this before numerous times, my personal opinion. We're in a genre, we're in an era of wrestling where I don't think you can just be the talker, the outlandish, big character like John Cena, and that would be the only thing. I think wrestling now, since the internet's so big, it's almost 50-50 with a lot of your crowds these days, because a lot of people know Daniel Bryan, a lot of people know the CM Punk background, a lot of people know, the independent, background of these guys and how the way they work and how they wrestle and all this stuff. So it's very hard to sit here and say, okay, with the internet and with YouTube and all this stuff, that Vince is not an idiot, because, you look and you think, I never would have thought ever that Daniel Bryan would ever be in contention for a world title, anytime soon, and he is. He won the Money in the Bank, and he's saying he's going to cash it in at WrestleMania. Only time will tell that'll really happen, but if it does, you're going to be having, internet fans, smart marks, just creaming all over themselves over this, whole thing. And I feel like I said, 2011 finally is a meshing year for me, because for many years, I'd probably say the last 4 or 5 years, I've just been that kind of guy who would just watch Raw and just be like, man, why is CM Punk just being so underutilized? Why is John Cena the champion again? Why is this? Why is that? It's a smart move. It's a smart move to make John Cena your champion. And I know it's just over and over and over again. But the more this guy wins, the more you're going to hate him. And WWE is doing the right move. I mean, they're making the right move. And when it gets to the point where, somebody finally beats him, it's gonna be so relieving that fans are just going to be like, oh, this is so great. Why didn't this, would the build up to this be, would the build up to Rock Cena be, would this match happening at WrestleMania, would this be near as good, near as big if John Cena wasn't Super Cena, if John Cena wasn't the guy who won the title 9 times, if John Cena wasn't the face of the company and so popular and hated at the same time? Would this match be as big as it's going to be now? No, not at all. So I just wanted to say that, a phrase, notably coined by and if you haven't seen this, notably coined by Brian Pillman at a, ECW pay-per-view, I believe, where he was just hating on the smart marks. He called them smart marks, and kind of just turned into, a big internet kind of thing, and everyone started using it. So, I mean, if you feel like you're smart, if you feel like you're a fan who knows this, smart stuff, who knows this, who knows that, I mean, that's great, but I'm, if I get on someone's YouTube account, or I get on and watch a video of somebody saying, oh, I could do this better than them, Cena's crap, he's horrible, blah, blah, blah. I mean, obviously, if you just don't like somebody, you just don't like somebody. But if you're just hating on a guy because you think he's a horrible wrestler, I mean, okay, but the company's not stupid. They're making shitloads of money off this guy. He's worked his ass off, and it always comes back to Cena and always comes back to Punk, where it's the perfect, and here's the reason why. It's very, very smart by WWE, because you're going to have all the smarks on CM Punk's side and all the marks on, John Cena's side, and you're going to just have a gigantic, just heated feud. I would love to just be in just a room with, 15 smarks and 15 marks, and just let them go at it. I just, if you're talking about creating a new Attitude Era, that is a perfect thing to do. If you're gonna do that, that's absolutely genius. If Cena wasn't already facing The Rock, I mean, if you were to have CM Punk versus Cena at WrestleMania and Dan Bryan versus Randy Orton, I mean, fans will just go nuts over that. If you're have Evan Bourne and Kofi Kingston versus a big named tag team, I mean, there's obviously no tag teams, but I guess you could consider Smarks a fan of just tag team wrestling now, because there is no tag team wrestling in WWE. And Marks like the women wrestling. Smarks absolutely hate women wrestling. If you sit there and you listen to watch Raw, watch Impact, even, not too many people are a fan of women wrestling. I mean, you're gonna get your Smarks, you're gonna get your people who know the Beth Phoenixes, who know the the Natalias, and they're doing a smart job. WWE is doing a very smart job right now of doing this women wrestlers versus bimbos, and I think this is very smart, and that's why I thought this would be an important video to do, because I think that it's very Smark versus Mark right now, and a lot of fans, once you go back and you look at some of the Raws and SmackDowns and Impacts even as well, mostly with WWE, they're doing a good job, because you have these smart fans who supposedly are super smart and know all this about wrestling, are hating on the fans who don't know near as much, but are just fans of the Cenas and the Ortons and those type guys. I think it's a perfect formula. If they can really use this well, I think this could be a really good start to WWE booming again. So I just want to do this Smarks versus Marks video. Leave some comments, guys. Let me know what you think. I'm not picking on either side. I guess I consider myself in the middle. I'm a guy who I like John Cena. I like CM Punk. I like WWE, and I like Ring of Honor. So I mean, I'm just I can't sit here and say one thing or another. I just laying it out for both sides. I'm gonna be even here on both sides, and basically state where I'm at. And I feel like I don't feel like I'm going to jump ship. I don't think I'm gonna be on either side. I think I understand enough as a fan now to know what's what and why things are being done. Why this guy's being used to make money, why these guys are being used to wrestle, why this and that. That's why I think it's going to be interesting once Ring of Honor hits television, how that's going to really how that's really going to do. So I mean, it's going to be interesting to see, guys, here in the very, very near future. But thanks, guys. Let me know what you guys think about this, and please comment. Thanks.